Well, good morning, Senator. How are we doing today?
Good morning. It was a beautiful drive coming to Lansing. A little bit of melted snow, and the sidewalks are starting to get cleared up here in Lansing, so you can move around town a little better than it was a week ago.
24 days from the official start of spring. You and Victory Farms down there. I imagine you guys, and along with a lot of farmers, starting to gear up, huh?
Boy, it does, when the sun comes out, like in the late part of February, you know that spring's not too far around the corner, and it's coming. It's going to come fast, and the change of seasons will be very rapid.
What all do you plant down there at Victory Farms, by the way, and when do you get that in the ground?
Well, actually, good question on that. We used to do a lot of root crops, and some of those we can get planted fairly early. So usually right around the late part of March, we are typically in some of the fields starting to plant. Turnips, you got beets, table beets like the red beets, gold beets, parsnips need to get in the ground early, and there's a whole host of crops. And then we don't stop planting until the late part of August. So it is a long, extended planting season.
How did you ever get into root crops?
Actually, it was, with the diversity of agriculture we do here in West Michigan, it was something that there were some other farmers that have done it, but there's some consolidation in the industry. And actually, it was kind of a unique market cycle. At one point in time, the demographic of those who were eating the root crop vegetables were like old-fashioned, kind of Depression-era style of vegetables. Then it seemed to be around the 90s with the advent of the cable TV food cooking shows, appreciation of some of the more of the heritage lines of vegetables and old school cooking habits and those type of things came back in vogue. The market demand expanded, and thus where we are at today with a very robust production of root crop vegetables, not just at Victory Farms, but throughout many producers here in West Michigan.
Is there a big learning curve? Was there a big learning curve for you to learn how to grow all those?
There is, but that's why you start out small. You take those lessons on a smaller scale and take that, move forward, and expand very cautiously but knowledgeably, and then that's, I always say, can be the road to success. But don't want to have one of those failures that will put you out of the game.
I'm just curious. I'm just fascinated by this. I mean, how long have you been a farmer? Do you come from a family of farmers?
Yeah, my father, he had a part-time farming operation, hard-working man. He worked in what actually helped me in the vegetable process. He worked in irrigation, commercial irrigation for agriculture producers. So a lot of the blueberry production people throughout the area knew my father very well. He installed a lot of those systems. And in vegetable production, water is a very critical component. And that was with his knowledge and understanding and guidance, he helped me navigate those pitfalls of making sure you have proper water available. And that's one of those key things on the diverse production cycle that we do. And thus, I always give him credit, and not just from that knowledge, but those life lessons that, boy, that generation could expel upon us, and take those to heart.
State Senator Roger Victory, Republican from Hudsonville, joining us right now, represents us here in Ottawa County. And that kind of leads me to my next question. I sent this article from the Grand Haven Tribune yesterday to Amber of your staff. I knew you knew about it, but I wanted to make sure that you had seen it. More than 550 Michigan farms produce 100 million pounds of fresh and frozen blueberries annually, but the explosive growth of imports, unfair trade practices, and market price manipulation and strategically timing to undermine domestic growers at their peak harvest has taken its toll. 2015, there were 423 million pounds of blueberries coming into the country, and up to 684 million pounds in 2019. And some of the blueberry farmers quoted said that they're growing at right now, they're not making a dime on this right now, and they were trying to get some help. And I know you've been trying to help as well. What happened? What's going on with that?
Their claims are true. And you can tell their claims are true. Just in it's very heart-wrenching seeing there's very few farms that are going out of business in West Michigan because agriculture has kind of turned around. We have some prosperous times. However, the blueberry growers, I know of two large operations that are liquidating this spring. And one is a 600-acre operation that has an auction sale coming up in March. And there's another one, hundreds of acres of production. And these are, generational farms that just cannot make it anymore or need to sell some properties just to get the cash flow going. So with that, the market has indicated by seeing that farms are selling and liquidating, that is a true statement out there. With it, it's just they cannot compete when other foreign countries ship that product in with foreign currency manipulation. So Peru is an example with their devalued currency that they can take that product, put it into the marketplace here, and with lower production costs, labor costs, all those costs, but also with using the differential between the dollar and the peso in Peru and other parts of the world, it can be devastating. We've seen the same thing with our cherry production competition from Turkey, and there's also subsidies that can be done upon the nation, and sometimes even these there's some incentives given at the federal level. So it's very disturbing to see that, and that's why with the case was brought to the tribunal, and it was very disheartening to see the ruling, but we need to pursue forward and continue to make claims and make sure that we retain that key industry, the blueberry production, which is very unique to Michigan and throughout our nation, make sure there's a level and fair playing field. We don't no need to give them an advantage, but all they need to do is have the equal plate at the market and have an equal footing there.
Yeah, I would think this trade commission would want to help America first. I don't understand that.
And I do believe here's some of the blueberry group, even the cherry group had some problems. It's such a niche item that it comes to the philosophy that the tribunal or the trade negotiation group, if they do this and then they see ramifications, is there a big enough concern, which is disheartening to me. It should be all equal when it comes to that court for that ruling. But sometimes being such a niche industry, do they really get an equal hearing or a foot at the door, the foot in the door when they're going to have a hearing on it? And there's a lot of things between the lines which I've been reading up on and been somewhat disheartening on. So we got to continue to speak on behalf of our blueberry growers. They are struggling. Again, their farms are some are being liquidated, and we need to make sure that it's an equal playing field and market accessibility for them.
Well, some great agricultural news. I mean, this is a big ag county, obviously, what's second biggest in the state or something. So thank you for the update on that. State Senator Roger Victory, Republican from Hudsonville. Let's talk about the budget. And I know Governor Whitmer is going to be talking about her nearly $70 billion budget for next year, but also the funds the feds have handed out that have not been doled out yet. I don't know if the Republicans are doing a great job overall as far as explaining why that money has not, what your opposition is to getting that money handed out with the feds. Can you explain what the holdup is and what your opposition is to that?
The key is we want to make sure that those dollars find the home where they need to be properly used. Because the frustration we don't hear out in the communications, there are pools of dollars that still have not yet been spent, and it seems like they can get to the front of the line and get additional dollars. But there are legitimate concerns. There's voices out there that have not had their proper funding flow of dollars, and those cannot be neglected because when these dollars are allocated, that we have one swing at the bat here, and we got to make sure we get it right. So I know that there's a lot of pressures, a lot of talking points on how we need to get this out in a hastily fashion, but also the agenda behind hasty expenditures mean those with the loudest voice get those appropriations. And even just because you have the loudest voice might not be that you have the proper need for those dollars. And we want to make sure those who don't have the loudest voice but may have a greater need, that is being addressed. So we're just making sure we're doing our due diligence, making sure that all the good folks of Michigan have their needs met as much as possible through these limited dollars.
Senator, I got to ask you this. U.S. Congressman Bill Huizenga is going to hold a telephone town hall tonight with constituents in West Michigan to talk about President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package and how they're going to vote on that. But he's also going to talk about all the pork that gets jammed into this. Can you talk about when a bill gets presented to you and it's it's a bill that's going to help everybody, but then how everyone just starts jamming everything into it and it inflates to this incredible amount and it's not exactly what it was supposed to be. Can you talk about how a bill goes from it's going to help this to where everyone starts jamming everything in and then doesn't get passed at all? Right.
At the federal level, there's these bills, there's a little bit more done in those bill processes there. at the state level, it's more designed in the budget process and also in the supplemental process. So I pivot right back to our previous conversation. When we have this large sum of money that they want to roll out in such a quick fashion, it's our job to make sure that there's not some language that got inserted in the 11th hour that navigates these dollars to a special interest group that probably doesn't need those dollars as much as another group. And that's why it is a process. We have to keep many different eyeballs on these supplemental bills to make sure the dollars go where they need to go. And it is frustrating because you always hear those stories afterwards, and it's like, how do we miss that there? And that's why we are continuing to work hard to make sure we vet this out. And I know there are others that say, got to get that done, got to get it done. But what is their incentive by this hurried aspect? But also we do have to get it done, too, because the need is out there. So it's kind of a balancing act to get it done, but get it done correctly.
Is there anything I didn't ask you want to get out there? I know you got committee meetings, so.
Nope, I think we covered all. The supplemental is the big issue this week in Lansing. And as I indicated, I will keep my on my radar screen, and I'm going to take my time and make sure that we get it right, because once you implement it, it's hard to unring the bell. So we want to make sure before we ring the bell, it's the proper tune for those all that need those proper dollars.
Great stuff today. Hit a lot of ag stuff, which we don't normally do, and a budget and the whole thing. So thanks for being forthright with us and up front, and I always appreciate our conversation each week.
Thank you. Thank you for your work and the service you provide for the community. It's a good service, so appreciate it.
Thanks, Senator.